followed up.
When you talk about political correctness, should a Muslim buying ammunition and weapons get extra scrutiny?
I don't know about that. I think right now we have some pretty big problems, and there are problems coming out of radical Islamic, the radical Islamic groups. You have a very, very strong group of people that is radical Islamic, and that seems to be a problem.
You said you would check respectfully the mosques. How do you respectfully check a mosque?
Well, you do as they used to do in New York prior to this mayor dismantling. By the way, if you go to France right now, they're doing it in France. In fact, in some instances, they're closing down mosques. People don't want to talk about it. People aren't talking about it. But look at what they're doing in France. They're actually closing down mosques.
Can I ask you just a bottom-line question before we move on? You like to speak plainly. In December, we talked, and you said there possibly should be profiling. Just as a bottom line here, are you talking about increasing profiling of Muslims in America?
Well, I think profiling is something that we're going to have to start thinking about as a country, and other countries do it. And you look at Israel and you look at others, and they do it, and they do it successfully. And, I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to start using common sense, and we have to use our heads. I see people that, and I've seen it recently. We had a case where, very much, in my case, where we had tremendous numbers of people coming into a speech I was making, and, people that obviously had no guns, had no weapons, had no anything, and they were going through screening, and they were going through the same scrutiny, the absolute same scrutiny as somebody else that looked like it could have been a possible person. So we really have to look at profiling. We have to look at it seriously. And other countries do it, and it's not the worst thing to do. I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to use common sense. We're not using common sense.
But Donald Trump, he came out fine.
All right, what's your response, Katrina?
Well, my response is this just goes to show you just how little Hillary Clinton knows about business in general. Taking a couple of entities and comparing that to the 500s plus that Donald Trump has been very successful in just goes to show you that Hillary Clinton has no idea what this country is about. This country is about having an idea, going out there and fighting for your dream and building something. Hillary Clinton has built absolutely nothing in this country. It's Donald Trump that has created tens of thousands of jobs over the last few decades.
But Katrina,
and this is exactly why he's winning on the economy.
Let me interrupt for a moment. Yes, he's created a lot of jobs. He's been a successful businessman, but you got to admit there's a whole list, not just a short list, a long list of companies that have failed where he's had to file for bankruptcy.
No, it's actually not a long list when you're looking at all of the businesses that Mr. Trump has been in. And look at Walt Disney. He wasn't successful in all of his adventures. Look at Henry Ford. These are successful business people who try things, entrepreneurs. And let's look at the facts here.
Okay.
As we move forward in this fight, we have to wield another weapon alongside our airstrikes, our military, and our counterterrorism work, and our diplomacy. And that's the power of our example. Our openness to refugees fleeing ISIL's violence. Our determination to win the battle against ISIL's hateful and violent propaganda, a distorted view of Islam that aims to radicalize young Muslims to their cause.
Now, he would probably say you have a distorted view of Islam or radical Islam. What do you say to what he had to say?
I'll tell you what I say. I can't even believe that he's saying it. It's inconceivable that he's saying it. Open borders, everything he said there is absolutely, you would almost say it's disgraceful. You can't even imagine that a man could make those statements, especially a president of this country. We need protection. We need borders. We need on the southern border, we need the wall, and the wall's going to get built. And Mexico's going to pay for the wall, by the way, just in case anybody has any questions. And it is disgraceful that he could say this, and especially when he talks about coming in from the Middle East, frankly, even more so, where they're undocumented. We have no idea where they come from. We have no idea who they are. And you saw what, a few months ago in California, you saw what two radicalized young people could do. The two people got married, killed their co-workers.
San Bernardino.
It is just insane what this man is saying. We need to either transition into terror or we need something else, because we have to get countries together. You see what happened with Brussels, where they had absolutely no intelligence having to do with people living in their own country. They have no coordination with other countries. There's zero coordination that they had with other countries, and it was ridiculous. I mean, I knew more about Brussels than Brussels knew. I was the one that predicted this was going to happen in Brussels and was criticized by the New York Times for it, and now everybody's saying I was right all over Twitter. So, I mean, we need to modernize NATO, at a minimum modernize it, but certainly we shouldn't be paying for the kind of it. We're paying disproportionately so much, and we're a nation that owes $19 trillion, and we just can't keep doing this. As far as strength, nobody has more strength on the borders than Donald Trump. I have Sheriff Joe Arpaio supporting me.
Right.
Nobody has the strength that I have on the borders, and nobody has the strength that I have in the military. Ted is actually weak on that. And you're right. My policy is America first. And it'll always be America first.
The vote to leave the European Union is seen by many as a harbinger for Trump's nationalist, anti-immigration message and a blow to Hillary Clinton.
If I were the Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton this morning, I would be very worried after watching this vote in the course of this. The enthusiasm was obviously among the same voters that Donald Trump is counting on in this country.
Well, she's always misread everything. I mean, no, if you think, she's misread this, and I was surprised that she was so bold.
Clinton tweeted this morning, "Our first task has to be to make sure that the economic uncertainty created by these events does not hurt working families." Les Trent is with Trump at the Scottish golf course, which is overseen by son Eric.
A lot of people in the States are saying, did you really have to be here for this?
Yeah,
I mean,
because you know why I'm here? Because I support my children.
You could have done this today by yourself.
Yeah, he's here to support me, though. I mean, it's all about family. You've seen me at every single debate. I haven't missed a single one. I'm always by his side, and he's always by my side, and that's what family is all about.
Trump's visit is sparking controversy, with one protester dumping golf balls painted with swastikas. Trump staffers scramble to pick them up.
Donald Trump is, as you guys know, an epic clown. So he has trouble understanding what the rules are, what the laws are, and if he does understand them, he doesn't give a damn. Boy, we have an excellent example of that today. So he's going around the world soliciting foreign donations from foreign leaders, people who are in parliament, people who are legislators. What? You can't take money from foreigners, let alone asking foreign leaders for money. What a weird, bizarre thing to do. Let me give you the details. Campaign Legal Center filed a complaint Wednesday with the Federal Election Commission, which prohibits the foreign nationals from contributing, donating, or spending funds on any U.S. elections. Now, anyone running knows that, but Donald Trump either doesn't know it, like he didn't know what a ground game was before Iowa, doesn't know how to get out the vote. He doesn't know the most elementary things in the world. So there is some chance he doesn't know. But at the end, you'll see, he actually, if he didn't know in the beginning, he knew at the end and he did it anyway. So he goes to legislators from Australia, Iceland, Denmark, Finland, United Kingdom, and Scotland. And he says, all right, can you guys give me money? What? And some of them are conservative. Some of them are liberals. They're like, are you mental? That's a violation of your own laws. And why would I give you money? Okay, so a Scottish member of parliament revealed that Trump's campaign had solicited her by email for campaign funding, which she said was then followed up with a second plea from the candidate's son, and he reportedly asked officials in other countries to donate as well. Now, I want to give you their reactions because this is wonderful. Now, Iceland's Left Green Party head, you think the Left Green Party in Iceland is going to give you money, Donald Trump? By the way, this is the supposed billionaire, Donald Trump, begging for money all across the world. They write in Iceland, this whole matter is very perplexing. The letter left me speechless. Well, it didn't leave Natalie McGarry speechless. She's the UK Parliament member from Scotland. She writes in, she says to his son, who asked for the money the second time around, quite why you think it appropriate to write emails to UK parliamentarians with a begging bowl for your father's repugnant campaign is completely beyond me. God, I love the Scottish. That is as good a quote as you could find. All right, now let's explain how incredibly illegal this is. Donald J. Trump's presidential campaign committee is violating, according to this Campaign Legal Center, violating black-letter federal law by sending campaign fundraising emails to foreign nationals, including foreign politicians in at least Iceland, Scotland, Australia, and Britain. And Paul Ryan, the deputy executive director of that group, explains, it is a no-brainer that it violates the law to send fundraising emails to members of a foreign government on their official foreign government email accounts, and yet that's exactly what Trump has done repeatedly. This is basically Trump saying, look, the FEC never investigates anything. To be fair, Hillary Clinton violated FEC laws, or her super PAC seems to have clearly done it. That's a story we reported yesterday. It's federal contractors are not supposed to give money to these presidential candidates, except federal contractors are giving her hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're like, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you're going to do about it, right? So Trump thinks, okay, then who cares? There are no laws. I'll go ask for money from foreigners and even their legislators. Okay.
The developer is actually a friend of mine, but he didn't want to build this building either. If you look back at the records, I mean, when it was first foisted upon him, Larry Silverstein is a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a friend of mine, but he didn't want to build this pile of junk. And it's a shame. It's really a shame.
Follow the money. This is an investigation of the 9/11 money trail. In 1998, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey agreed to privatize the World Trade Center, the complex of office towers in Lower Manhattan that they had owned and operated since their construction in 1973. In April 2001, an agreement was reached with a consortium of investors led by Silverstein Properties, and on July 24, 2001, Larry Silverstein, who already owned World Trade Center Building 7, signed a 99-year lease for the Twin Towers and Buildings 4 and 5. The lease was for $3.2 billion and was financed by a bridge loan from GMAC, the commercial mortgage arm of General Motors, as well as $111 million from Lloyd Goldman and Joseph Kerr, individual real estate investors. Silverstein Properties only put down $14 million of its own money. The deal was unusual in a variety of ways. Although the Port Authority carried only $1.5 billion of insurance coverage on the WTC complex, which earlier that year had been valued at $1.2 billion, Silverstein had insisted on doubling that amount, insuring the buildings for $3.55 billion. Silverstein's insurance broker struggled to put that much coverage in place and ultimately had to split it among 25 dealers. The negotiations were so involved that only temporary contracts were in place for the insurance at the time the lease was signed, and by September the contracts were still being finalized. Silverstein's group was also explicitly given the right to rebuild the structures if they were destroyed, and even to expand the amount of retail space on the site if rebuilding did take place. Within hours of the destruction of the Twin Towers on September 11th, Silverstein was on the phone to his lawyers, trying to determine if his insurance policies could construe the attacks as two separate insurable incidents rather than one. Silverstein spent years in the courts attempting to win $7.1 billion from his $3.55 billion insurance policy, and in 2007 walked away with $4.55 billion, the largest single insurance settlement ever. As soon as the deal was announced, Silverstein sued United and American Airlines for a further $3.5 billion for their negligence in the 9/11 attacks, a claim that was struck down by the courts but is still on appeal. Perhaps even more outrageously, in a secret deal in 2003, the Port Authority agreed to pay back 80% of their initial equity in the lease, but allowed the Silverstein Group to maintain control of the site. The deal gave Silverstein, Goldman, and Kerr $98 million of the $125 million they put down on the lease, and a further $130 million in insurance proceeds that were earmarked for the site's rebuilding. In the end, Silverstein profited from the 9/11 attacks to the tune of $4.5 billion and counting.
We want to rebuild the World Trade Center as the World Trade Center, but better. A little bit taller, a lot stronger, just plain better. The developer is actually a friend of mine, but he didn't want to build this building either. If you look back at the records, I mean, when it was first foisted upon him, Larry Silverstein is a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a friend of mine.
And that's when we saw the North Tower in flames. And we saw the plane circling around before it slammed into the South Tower and caused it to end up in flames. And therein was the day of the disaster of 9/11. Changed our lives, changed the lives of everybody in our world, changed the lives of everybody in the world, certainly civilized people, no matter where they live around the globe. And so we lost almost 3,000 people. It was a miracle. My life wasn't lost because she kept me from going down to the Trade Center. She said, "You've got to go to the dermatologist." By the way, I never made it to the dermatologist that day, but at least my intentions were right. But we ran into a problem. We couldn't collect the insurance because the insurance companies didn't want to pay. There were 22 insurance companies defending 22 insurers who didn't want to pay their obligations under the policies. And so they took me to court. And I had to beat them in court, the lower court, and then had to take an appeal and win in the upper court. So they owed me $4.5 billion with which to build these buildings. It wasn't enough, but at least it was $4.5 billion. It could start the process. And I couldn't collect. So what do when you beat the insurance companies in court and they still won't pay? A new governor was just elected. Eliot Spitzer, an old friend who I knew well. I said, "Eliot, if you don't help me, I'll never collect from the insurance companies." And guess what? He listened and he said, "You know what? You're entitled. I'm going to get you the money." And in 6 months, he got me the $4.5 billion. The insurance companies didn't like me, but at least I got the money. And with the money, we could really start getting into. 7 was done, but now we could start with Tower 4, Tower 3, Tower 2, and Tower 1. And the Mayor Bloomberg, finally looked at this picture and he said, "You know," he said, "Silverstein, you're entitled to possession of the ground, of the building parcels, because you're paying ground rent to the port and they have an obligation to give you those parcels. And if they don't, then they really have to be criticized." And so there was a major confrontation between the port and ourselves. And all of a sudden, thousands and thousands of workers who want to build these buildings. Each building, takes 10,000 employees to build them. So they started spontaneously demonstrating in front of state offices and government offices. And the next thing you know, we ended up making a deal with the Port Authority. Of course, I had signed a contract and now own the Trade Center. And I had a lease obligations to pay $120 million a year in ground rent. And I only signed that contract for 99 years. And there I was, 70 years of age. I was a little optimistic. But there I was with an obligation, 99-year obligation to pay the port $120 million a year, forever, seemed like. I had to rebuild, like kind, like quality. And I had an obligation to collect the insurance proceeds from the policies, because that's the only place the money could come from the insurance proceeds. That was my job, my obligation, because they owned the policies. And you could see what happened. You could see the devastation. You could see the obliteration. Everything came down. plus 7 World Trade Center. It wasn't part of the Trade Center, but it was right north of it. And when the antenna came down from the top of the North Tower, it went right through the facade of 7 World Trade Center. Started a fire, and by the end of the afternoon, the building just collapsed. Fortunately, no lives were lost in 7 because there was enough time between when the fire started in that building and the time it collapsed to make sure nobody was left in the building. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
The city moves fast, no one has time to sit with themselves, no time to look into our pain. See the same despair in everyone else, it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. Tears soak each card the dealer dealt. Time taught me how to see every second is heaven, even though they're perfectly disguised as hell. And I refuse to let past bruises cover the light. It ain't all good, but it's all good enough so I know I'm alright. Agony is truth, it's our connection to the living. I accept it as perfection and keep on existing in the now. I can only build if I tear the walls down. Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. Falling, but no matter how hard I hit the ground, I'll still smile. I can only build if I tear the walls down. Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. Falling, but no matter how hard I hit the ground, I'll still smile. Ear to ear as if that's all I'm here for. Despite the wars founded by the rich, funded by the poor, kids barely 18 are dying so billionaires can make more. Elsewhere, hungry mothers watch the baby starve to death in a beat-up shack on a dirt floor. The aged professor quotes freedoms without a path, and now he dresses like a widow, preaches love is dead in every class. But curiosity killed the cat, taught the dog in him how to act, burned his bridge to Jill, so he tries to drown that guilt with a bottle of Jack. And self-proclaimed rebels say you must oppose the system, you've got to take a stand. If you're not against them, you're with them. Signs read, support the troops, bring them home, no more innocent victims. When a homeless veteran asks for spare change, you're too busy protesting to even listen. And I'm no different, I live in conflict and contradiction, but it can be so beautiful if I don't reject what lies within. It's beautiful the way agony connects us to the living. I think of the world when I hurt and keep on existing in the now. I can only build if I tear the walls down. Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. Falling, but no matter how hard I hit the ground, I'll still smile. I can only build if I tear the walls down. Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. Falling, but no matter how hard I hit the ground, I'll still smile.